Alright. Let's talk about season 2 of The Flash. Alright. Just so you know, after this review, I'm taking a break from the Flash review. Just a small one. I'm going to be on vacation next week. If I get a hankering to start watching again, I might start watching again. But I'm going to be on vacation next week from when you're watching this. So, bit of a break. Season 2 of The Flash. So, yeah, season 2 of The Flash. In season 2 of The Flash, 6 months have passed since the end of season 1. Singularity has left us with a lost loved one, and a new villain named Zoom is coming through with a bunch of metahumans from Earth 2, get the multiverse. And yeah. So, like I said, so we start off, and I hate when TV shows do this, where, you know, they leave on a cliffhanger and they don't pick up from the cliffhanger because as they're writing, they decide, oh, we need to account for the 6-month break in between. So, instead, it's 6 months later, Barry's on his own, and through his memories, we see flashes of what happened. The last we saw of Barry, he ran into the Singularity, and in the flashbacks, we find out that he wasn't strong enough to do it. So Firestorm flies into the Singularity, and they separate inside the Singularity, causing Ronnie to die, which is one of the decisions I don't get. I understand. So they were, at this point, they had already sort of set up, like, when Barry is traveling back in time, at the end of season 1, we see flashes of stuff they wanted to cover. Like, you see Barry in jail, hitting at trial of the Flash. We see the Legends of Tomorrow, so there's like a little skip it. So they were setting up for Legends of Tomorrow past this. So evidently, this is what I've always believed, is that Robbie Amell didn't want to be on like a main cast member of the show. So, they killed him off. Only to bring him back later as the Earth 2 doppelganger, which is really weird. Like, he shows up as Deathstorm, which is a different Deathstorm than the one we get in season 8. We're going to talk about that when we get to it. But, it's 7 years too late, I think, for that. But you could have handled it better too. But anyway, so yeah, Ronnie's dead. Not that Caitlin cares, because 6 months later, she says she's still, you know, she does care, I guess I should say, but like, what they do with her character never really made sense to me. So, 6 months later, it's Flash Day. Barry has pushed everyone away from him because of the death of Ronnie. Even though he only knew Ronnie for like 5 minutes. But apparently it's devastating enough for him. He barely knew Ronnie. Like, he met Ronnie once, they left, they came back, said, hey, we're staying, which means, hey, I'm gonna die. Trust me, that's what it means. You find out in this season, someone says, I'm gonna stay. And we're gonna be a family. You're dead. But yeah, he's gonna stay. You didn't know him that long. Not really. You didn't spend, but I guess you lose someone. But apparently this is the decision that caused him to push everyone away until we get a dead body of Al Rothstein, and then a metahuman, who's also Al Rothstein, shows up. He's from Earth 2. And we find out Zoom is the main villain. And then we get the introduction of Jay Garrick, played by Teddy Sears, who I'll just say, like, I'll get to like who he really plays, but like, he is great in the role because get to it. But like I said, Caitlin has been mourning Ronnie for 6 months. Jay shows up and she's basically like, ooh, who are you? And she's basically like checking him out and they sort of have a thing going on, and it's like, but your husband is dead. I know it's been 6 months, but 6 months is enough to get over your dead husband? I get if it was like a boyfriend, if it was a boyfriend, but I don't know, but like, he died, it's the second time he died, by the way. I don't know, it's really weird how she just moves on, I guess. I don't know. Iris does eventually date, but she takes longer. But she doesn't actually go out on a date that she was supposed to go out on with her new boss. So really weird when they do that. But it's not because of Eddie. It's because she says she has feelings for Barry, which we already knew. But her fiance died. This is later than 6 months though, so maybe she was already over. I don't know. But then Barry goes back in time again. He brings back a thing, I don't know. But yes. So, let's talk about Teddy Sears here. His character, Jay Garrick, is a character introduced. Jay Garrick was the was it Golden Age Flash, like the first one. You know what I mean? So he comes in from Earth 2. He's Earth 2's Flash, and he ends up helping Barry get faster to take on Zoom, who is way faster. And Zoom is voiced by Tony Todd, who does a fantastic job voicing him. And that Zoom looks good. Even with the CGI, I mean, he's black, and most of the time you see him, it's at night. But even during some of the spots when he's in the light, he doesn't look bad. The CGI is a little bit better this season, not by much, but... And we get some other occurrences. The Rogues show up, and we get Snart's dad in this, played by Michael Ironside, which is cool. Although they kill him off in one appearance, so I don't know. Although I do think they introduced his daddy here, so that when they mention him and they do a storyline in Legends, that would make sense. They're building things up. They introduced Kendra Saunders, who is the new love interest for Cisco, who is also Hawk Girl. I've already done the Legends of Today, Tomorrow, whatever they call Legends of Today, and yesterday the Heroes Unite or whatever it's called crossover, talking about her, my feelings on that. I don't know. They introduce her, the love interest to Cisco. Why do they do that? Like, they introduce a character, make them a love interest. They do it twice in this season, only for them to leave. And I don't know about with Patty Spivot, which we'll get to, but with Kendra, they knew she was leaving. They knew she was going to go to Legends of Tomorrow. So why have her being a love interest with Cisco? And we're not going to get to the love interest thing with her all the way, because what they do in Legends is just, like, why? I don't know. But, like, yeah. And then she leaves. And so, and here's the thing. I didn't watch the crossover, and I will say, I'm like, I already did that. I don't need to see it. But it's very weird because you see this romance between the two of them, and then all of a sudden, if you don't watch the crossover, you don't know what happens. She's just gone. And I didn't think about that. So in watching it, I'm like, oh, she's gone. What happened to... Oh, that's right. You know, because it took me a minute. Then you have Patty Spivot, who's the love interest for Barry this season. And as any kind of thing, when you go back, you know, especially, it's like Superman and the Superman syndrome. You know that he's destined for Lois Lane. With Barry Allen, you know he's... With Flash, you know he's destined for Iris West. So, he's dating Patty. But here's the thing. I kind of think Patty would have been better. Maybe he's the actress. I don't know. Nothing against, what's her nuts? Candace Patton. She's great, but I don't know. I think there's more chemistry between Grant Gustin and Chantel Van Santen, who plays Patty Spivot, and she just, I don't know. They didn't really read that relationship. Like Barry is going to tell her he's the Flash, and then doesn't, because Harry, we'll get to that, tells him not to. But, like, every single other person that he is close to knows. So even if Patty doesn't know, someone he cares about is still going to get hurt. So, I don't know. I never got that. And it's only so she can leave and go to CSI school and we never see her again. Even though there's an episode in a later season where they go to Midway City, looks like they forgot Patty's supposed to be there. But, yeah. And then we have Harry. Harrison Wells shows up again. This is Earth 2 Harrison Wells, a.k.a. Harry. And this is the beginning of the Infinite Wells, so to speak. They decided that each season they're going to have a different Wells. And Harry is the only one of them that doesn't die. Really. Well, no, he's not. There's other ones that don't die, I guess. He's the only one, like, that comes back for another season, I should say. He shows up in season 3, and then I think it's season 5? No. 6. No. 4. 4. No, that's Sherlock. And yes, that is a thing. If we get season 6. No, because it wouldn't make any sense. It used to be... I don't know. He comes back for another season. Maybe it is season 5 at first. I think maybe it is season 5. That does make sense. But, yeah. And then it leads to the Council of Wells eventually. But, yeah, the whole Wells thing. Eobard Thawne shows up. The Matt Lesher Eobard Thawne shows up for an episode entitled Return of the First Reverse Flash. Hold on. And the Reverse Flash Returns is what it's called. And this I'm a little iffy on. So, they say that this Eobard is the one who finds out what time period the Flash is from, and all his friends' name, and all that. The only problem is, no, it's not, because we've already been told that the Flash, originally, was created in 2020, which means that if Eobard traveled from the future to the past to find out about the Flash, he would be in the past of the original timeline, not the new timeline created by him. So it makes no sense that he would show up here and know all this stuff. Like, you could say, oh, how do you know about Star Labs? He's from the future. How do you know? All that stuff. And, I don't know. It's never made sense to me. Watch it this time. It made me scratch my head going, wait, no, because he should be going to the past of the original timeline, not the new one he created, because it wouldn't make sense that he would go into the past of this timeline, being that Eobard from the original timeline, not, I don't know, they do stuff with him. How do they explain why he's still alive? Well, he's a timeline remnant, which is later changed to Time Remnant, where he still exists. I don't know. Nothing about Eobard says to me Time Remnant. A Time Remnant is when you go back in time and pluck yourself just seconds before you left. That's a Time Remnant. This, they explain it's a timeline remnant. They explain this is a timeline remnant, but then later, when they explain with Zoom about his Time Remnant, it's a completely different explanation. Oh, he went back in time, plucked himself from the timeline, and no, that doesn't make any sense. This one is just better way to explain it with Eobard is that time hasn't caught up to him yet, but it does later eventually. I'm just saying. Let's talk about the twist. So, they do this deliberately too. They have the new Harrison Wells, Harry, show up. So immediately, you don't trust him because he looks like the guy who betrayed him. They don't trust him, you know. Meanwhile, you have Jay Garrick. There's a reason why I keep doing that. Who is trusted almost in the beginning. At first, they don't trust him, but then they learn to trust him. But it's revealed he is actually Zoom. And more than that, his real name is Hunter Zolomon. Now, how they handle revealing it, though, first of all, they explain that he's sick. I guess he's dying from the Velocity 6, which, with all the scans and tests that she runs on Jay, how did Caitlin not figure out that he was Zoom? Like, I don't understand that. And then he takes her to what's supposed to be his Earth 1 doppelganger, which he says his name is Hunter Zolomon. You could have came up with any other name, but you decided to use your real name. Now, luckily for him, Caitlin mentions this to nobody at all until it's time for them to find out about it. Congruent with this, we have Cisco learning to use his powers, and that plays into the reveal of who it is, because we see Jay killed by Zoom, only for it to be revealed in the next episode afterwards that at the end credit stinger thing, that it was Jay, or Hunter Zolomon, find out later. And then the next episode after that, Cisco keeps vibing stuff about Zoom and realizes it's connected to Jay's helmet. We also get like a backstory that he had sort of the same past as Barry, only his dad actually did kill his mom, and then he was sent to an orphanage. He had no family and became a serial killer. And the night of the Earth 2 particle accelerator explosion, he became Zoom. That's what we find out. But how they come across the Hunter Zolomon stuff is just... So, to find out that Jay is Zoom, and then, like, they're talking about, like, how could he... And then, like, well, you said his Earth 1's name was Hunter Zolomon. And they're like, what? Yeah. And then, like, so then all of a sudden, like, Wells, Harry says this. He goes, Hunter Zolomon, instantly recognizable. Well, you stood by him for months and didn't recognize him, did you, Harry? And the portrayal of Harry versus Wells, he's more stoic, more like very serious, very determined kind of thing. Maybe I think Tom Cavanaugh gives him more of a deeper gruff in his voice than the one from Earth 1. Although there's an episode called Flashback where he goes back. Oh, let's talk about Flashback for a minute, because this makes no sense. So in the episode Flashback, Flash goes back in time again. This time to around the time the year previous to when Pied Piper, Hartley Rathaway, was causing havoc. He prevents Hartley from causing the havoc, which is a big no-no, but in going back in time, he brings with him a time wraith. And, yeah, the time wraith causes problems because Eobard figures out, Wellsabard figures out who he is. He's like, you're not this Barry, you're in the future. Seeing as you're not freaked out by me being a speedster, that sort of thing. But this changes history. And in the new, this is like, I don't know how many times, this is like the second of 4 times they change history in this show. when Barry gets back, Hartley is now a good guy. And, yeah, because that one event changed everything. I guess. I don't fucking know. But they have one mention of him later this season, and then the next time we see him, they've changed it again because Crisis on Infinite Earths happens, so now he's a bad guy again. They barely used him as an ally, but, you know, and I guess I should wait till I get to that season, but I'm going to kind of put my feelings in it now, is that it would have meant more that he became a villain again if we had seen more of him show up as an ally, but they never did that again. Speaking of new allies, Joe finds out he has a son named Wally West. Yes, in this version, Wally West is Iris's brother, not her nephew, I think it was, in the comics. Played by Kenan Lonsdale here. And I'll just go ahead and say my overall thoughts of Wally West. He's underutilized in every single way, every single season, because they gotta focus on the main Flash. And, like, even, I guess I should wait till season 3, but, like, he gets powers, and they keep telling him, no, you can't do anything. And it's like, what? And that's because if you had two speedsters doing stuff, it would get done too fast, and he wouldn't be able to spread it out throughout the episodes. But Wally in this, so in the first season they said that Joe's Iris's mother Francine was dead. Well, in this season they retconned that, saying, no, she's not dead. She was a drug addict and left. How old was Iris when she left? How would she not remember that? I think you wouldn't remember your mom taking off on you. And they just told her she was dead? Why? Did she just left? I don't know. It feels like, oh, hey, we're going to bring in Wally West. We want to make it Iris's brother. So how do we do that? Oh, her mom's still alive. Even though telling someone your mother is dead, I don't know. But, yeah. And that's not the only family getting closer. Cisco and his brother Dante get closer. An episode where Dante's Earth 2 doppelganger shows up. We meet other bunch of doppelgangers. I haven't mentioned Deathstorm. We get Killer Frost from Earth 2. Reverb, which is the Earth 2 version of 5. On that Earth, Barry is a nerd. Well, nerdier. And there's still a CSI. Iris is the cop. Joe is a lounge singer. Floyd Lawton, Deadshot, is a lousy shot and a cop. So how did he become a cop being a lousy shot? I don't know. David Singh, the captain of the CCPD, and that universe is a criminal. The most baffling one, I still can't stop thinking about, is that Leonard Snart is the mayor of Central City in that universe. But yeah, Harry also has a daughter, Jessie Wells, who is this series version of Jesse Quick. So I want to talk about how they shape the season. So when you have a longer season, like shorter seasons sometimes can do better. Like for TV shows nowadays, they have shorter seasons. They can promote the story. I didn't really notice any kind of lagging in season 1. I think it all went at a brisk pace. But during this season, there were some lulls I noticed. And there were episodes where I don't know, it felt like so there's one episode where Barry gets his back broken, spine broken or whatever, and so he's out of commission for like an episode and a half or so until he gets his speed back. That's to draw out the season. And then later, he gets his powers completely taken away. And this leads me to one of my biggest problems of the season. So at one point, they decide to close all the breaches to Earth 2, with Harry stating, oh, you know, I guess to his daughter, we're going to have to live on Earth 1 from now on. They close all the breaches, which means Zoom is now stuck on Earth 2. He's stuck there. During their venture over to Earth 2, they see a man in a mask, which is very important to what happens later, but that's another thing I just always scratch my head on, like, why do this? But Zoom is stuck on Earth 2. He's stuck there, can't do anything. He can harm stuff on your Earth 2, but as far as you're considered, your Earth is safe. Yet, they're still trying to figure out a way to stop him. Barry's still trying to get faster. He's trying to figure out a way to stop him. He's stuck on another Earth. You're safe. Why are you doing anything? And so there's like this stretch of time where there's some other metahumans showing up, but there's nothing really happening. And then, for some fucking reason, they reopen the breach, allowing Zoom to come back through. Because they think they have a way to defeat him. It doesn't work, of course. And now he's free roaming again. And then their big plan that they have to finish him off, when things start to get heavy and things start to go, they get rid of all the metahumans, lock him up, leaving Zoom. Their plan is to take him, push him through a portal, what do we call it? I just call it, I don't know, a tear? What do we call it? The breach. A breach. To push him through a breach and close it off. But he takes Joe with him this time. Your plan was to push him through a breach and close it off. So why the hell did you open a breach and let him back through? Because that's what their plan, their end game was to just push it back through a breach, close it off, and just let it be. Then why were you so... Oh, it makes no sense. They were trying so hard to want to figure out how to open breaches for Barry to get faster so they could do this. But what? The hell's the point? And then Barry loses his speed. Maybe before this. Barry loses his speed. So, Harry's genius plan is to recreate the Star Labs particle accelerator explosion again. This ends up killing Barry, but Wally and Jesse get exposed to the dark matter, which does nothing to Wally for some reason. Like, he gets knocked out, but Jesse's in a coma, like Barry was, and then she gets woken up later. But it's like, what's the point of having Wally there if you're not going to give him his powers too? She's the only one who gets infected. He gets nothing. He gets his powers in season 3, but a different way. But, yeah. So, Barry is not actually dead. He's stuck in the Speed Force. And the episode Runaway Dinosaur, which was directed by Kevin Smith, which means we have a cameo from Jason Mewes, because of course we do. And, yeah, it's an episode where Barry is in the Speed Force talking to Speed Force versions. And the one thing I keep hearing, they keep saying we. Each of the characters he meets says we. And it makes me think, because things inside the Speed Force, they're not linked to one point in time. Time is very fluid there. It doesn't, there's no, like, you can't figure, like, you're in the, you're in the Speed Force, there's no real time that you're there. All time exists at once. So what if certain characters established in, say season 6, were there at that point? Although that would be another different timeline and thus be confusing, but they keep saying we, and it makes me think of that. Basically, Barry is, and this also makes sense to me thinking in the end, he's supposed, in order to get his powers back, because they're like, oh hey, Because Cisco figures out a way to go through there to breach through, and you can go with it, but you won't have powers. Why not? Oh, because you have to accept that your mom is dead. I think he's done that. You have to accept her death. Because he's never been to her grave, I guess. And I guess Jordan... Yeah. I don't know. Because what happens at the end of the season just doesn't make any sense. One important thing I had to mention. Harry's dad. So Wells leaves a recording. Barry's basically forced to take and watch. That tells him he confesses to the death of Nora Allen. Although, I guess he would be. So, it's the murder of Nora Allen. So, Barry's dad gets out of jail. And then he leaves Central City. But then he comes back at the end of the season when Barry needs help. And then he dies. Barry dies. And then he's brought back. And then Henry says this: I'm gonna stay. Oh, he's dead. And yeah, they're having this family dinner thing. Zoom shows up, kills him. After they get rid of all the metas, except for Zoom, kills him. We get an Earth 2 version of Laurel Lance, who earlier in the season, the same season of Arrow, passed away. This is the other version. Black Siren, which we'll see going forward in later seasons, but yeah. I also get versions of King Shark, and Gorilla Grodd comes back for an episode where he gets, this is very important, he gets sent over to Earth 2 where there's a city of gorillas, which comes into season 3 later. Yeah. And Killer Frost, of course. Kenton is afraid, you know. Cisco and Dante get closer when a doppelganger of his shows up called Rupture. And again, no, it's another character that, oh, they get this, we're going to be close. And then what happens in season 3? Maybe the actor was busy. I don't know. But, yeah, so Henry Allen is killed by Zoom in front of Barry in the house they grew up in, which, you know, I remind you, someone lives in that house. So they zoomed into the house, literally zoomed into the house in the middle of the night. Like, how late was this? They're having dinner. There's no one there at this time at night? Really? Convenient. But he kills Henry, and so now he's mad. And they lock Barry up. Yeah, because they say, oh, he's too angry, and it's gonna, they don't want him to race him because they think he's gonna die. But they end up doing the race anyway, so it's just to waste time so the episode's an hour. Because if they let him do it, it'd be done in 20 minutes. Wally is the one. And again, with underappreciating Wally, most of the people that Barry reveals his powers to, they get this unmasking scene. Wally only finds out because Zoom takes Henry and Barry follows him. That's it. There's no big unmasking. They weren't even intending to tell him about it at all. It's just so much disrespect for Wally. I mean, maybe I'm biased because that's the Flash I grew up with in the Justice League TV series was Wally West. So, yeah, maybe I'm a little biased, but I'm just saying. Yeah, so how they defeat Zoom is a race, basically. But Barry uses a doppelganger to close the singularity again that is going to like destroy both Earths. It crashes on 2 Earths. And Justice League movie. And Time Wraiths take Zolomon, Zoom, and turn him into Black Flash, which will come in later, handy later in Legends of Tomorrow, season 2. But yeah. And then we have one that's always kind of rocky on. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's sort of a Flash 1990 reunion because Tina McGee shows up for a couple episodes, and there's a moment where, and I didn't think of it right away, where Henry Allen introduces himself to Tina. He's like, "Hey, I'm Henry Allen." She's like, "Oh, Christina McGee," and I'm like, "Oh, ha, yeah," because they were together on the show. That's the only scene they ever share in this series is that. But yeah, finish it up. The masked man is unmasked to reveal the real Jay Garrick, played by John Wesley Shipp. So they killed off Henry Allen to recast him as Jay Garrick. In my opinion, they should have just cast someone else. I know the whole thing, one reason why they did it is because, oh, he looks like Barry's dad, but he's not really Barry's dad. They even established earlier in the season where he mentions Jay Garrick. He's like, "Garrick? That's my mother's maiden name." And I was like, Garrick. I don't know. It'd be funny if it looked like Grant Gustin. He's still the Flash on Earth 3 is where he's from, we find out. And he was like, "I can take you as far as Earth 2. And then Barry makes the dumbest decision. After all this and finally accepting his mother's death, he runs back in time, stopping the Reverse Flash from killing his mother, which comic book readers will know creates Flashpoint. This was the cliffhanger people hung on for months, only to be disappointed in the next season when it was only one episode. But yeah, season 2, kind of a step down, just a little bit. I think season 2 is a little bit better. Zoom is probably the best villain because here's the thing about Reverse Flash. The way that Tom Cavanaugh plays Wells Bard, you knew something was up. From the very moment you saw him and he's standing up, you knew something was up with him. But what they do with Teddy Sears is they have Jay legitimately be one of the nicest people and be their ally and Jimmy trying to help them. All the while throwing shade on the new Wells. Oh, can you trust him? And then bam! It's Jay. So it works. Better than the Wells Bard stuff because, you know, rewatching it, you do see it. And again, there's the whole thing where, much like with Wells Bard, where like you keep forgetting and he's the villain and he's, you know, he helps him so much. That kind of thing. But there's more of a give with Zolomon because he's presented as a hero for most of the time until it's revealed. Whereas you know something's going on with Wells Bard. So, yeah. Not a bad season at all, but there you go. So what are your thoughts on season 2 of The Flash? Leave me a comment below, share, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.